Hi, I'm Fred Burton here today with my colleague Scott Stewart to talk about the newly released bin Laden documents that were recovered from his safe house in Abbottabad. Scott, what is your thoughts on reviewing the documents? What leaps out at you as the most interesting?
Well, I think it's important to remember that, it's been 4 years since bin Laden was killed in 2011. And so a lot of this is not new. This is also really the fourth installment of documents that have been released, with the first coming through West Point back in 2012. But when I'm looking at them, the things that stick out to me are the operational documents. The stuff that he sent, to go out as statements and those sorts of things aren't as interesting as the inside baseball stuff that shows up, like in his letters to Atiyah Abdulrahman and his other subordinates within Al-Qaeda. It's those internal things that I think are really the most revealing and the most interesting.
Yeah, and from my aspect, his laser fixation on operational security and even going back to old school handwritten letters.
Yeah, exactly. That shows us really the constraints, and we've been writing about this for years, the constraints that Al-Qaeda was under because of the pressure that the Americans and their allies were placing on them with really, every tool in the counterterrorism toolbox, everything from, human intelligence to technical intelligence. And it's very clear that Al-Qaeda was concerned about all of that. They were very concerned about drone strikes, airstrikes, arrests. And so they were really under a lot of pressure, and that really constrained their ability to operate.
I know in looking at the materials that it has to be a troubling time in Washington. Of course, they've known for a while concerning the fixation too on targeting the United States embassies in Sierra Leone and Togo, as well as for the U.S. Secret Service, his fixation on trying to kill President Obama. That has to also resonate across the protective security field.
Well, certainly, but we need to understand that bin Laden had a lot of time on his hands as he was sitting there in his safe house to kind of think, aspirational thoughts and big thoughts. And certainly we saw him make a number of threats over the years. The problem is, though, the group was very constrained in their abilities to actually pull off these types of attacks, especially the spectacular attacks, to basically dwarf 9/11 they wanted. I think it's also interesting, though, as we look through these documents, to see the struggles that the Al-Qaeda core had in trying to get these franchise groups to kind of toe their line operationally and to focus their attacks on, Americans in their theaters rather than the local security forces. And that's one of the things that we saw with, the reference to those African embassies.
I also saw that it was interesting that bin Laden still remains fixated on aviation plots, similar to what we saw on 9/11.
Yeah, that's something that really, has transcended all the way from the Operation Bojinka days, back in the 90s, through 9/11, the Towers plot, and then even these more recent attacks that we've seen, after 9/11, the shoe bombing, the underwear bombing, the printer bomb plots. So they really have maintained that fixation. It's because those attacks on airliners get so much publicity, and it's just such a high-profile target, and it instills so much fear that they really saw that as a very just good target, tempting target for them to hit. We saw that also with the liquid bomb plot, back in 2008 as well.
Well, of course, from a historical perspective, aviation has always been a target, commercial aviation, going back to the Black September days. And in many ways, it's a perfect terror vehicle that could be used to carry out attacks as well as hijackings. I believe that's all we have time for today, Scott. So thank you very much. And for those of you who are interested in more materials we've written on this topic, please visit our website.